You're listening to Empty Nexters, a podcast about finding joy, beauty, and wonder in the next season of life. What's your next?
This could be the best year of my life.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of the Empty Nexters podcast. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to actually be doing this. I'll get into all the how did we get here and all the fun of that. But thank you for being here. Whoever's listening, I'm so thankful that you're here. So I'm Shelly, and I will be your host on this new adventure of discovery, joy, and possibility. So I'm sure the biggest thing you're asking right now is, okay, did she flunk grammar because she's saying the word nexter, not nester? And I know we've all learned by growing up and as we've aged that the word empty nester is the big catchphrase lately. Well, I'll clarify why the word nexter is the word of the day. So the word nesting, I'm just going to read my notes to you right now and let you know kind of where I'm coming from. Nesting is what we've been doing up to this point. Like a mama bird, we all have seen mama birds. And I don't know about you, but I've been fascinated by hummingbirds lately. But mama birds go out and painstakingly find every possible thing they can find to make that nest beautiful and comfortable and safe for those babies. Well, that's what we've been doing as our children have been growing. We've made them a safe place and comfortable place to grow and thrive. And now they've left that nest. And although some are still living at home for whatever reason, they're no longer as dependent on us. So the biggest question is, what's next for me, or what's next for you? Up to this point, I don't know about y'all, but I've been a mama for 35 years, 24/7. I mean, when that comes to an end and you're not prepared, it can cause some serious problems or even trauma. It just can. And so once we've accepted the fact that these amazing human beings have left us, which in my opinion is super rude. What about y'all? I can't even believe they would want to leave me, of all people, let alone their dad. The questions flood our minds. What am I going to do? I'm not needed. What's my purpose? We don't just turn the mom switch off. We have to know how to navigate in the next. So basically that is why one of the reasons why it's called the Empty Nexters. The empty nest is a great phrase, and it's been a wonderful phrase, but for me and the life I'm in now, Empty Nexters is really where I want to focus. So with that being said, each week we're going to share the joys and the challenges, and yes, even some trauma, but with a lot of laughter. So be prepared. I love to laugh. I love to be serious. I love to talk about serious things, but more than anything, I love to have joy. I have a tattoo written on my arm to remind me to find joy in every day. So we need to navigate the road ahead, and how do we chart a new path forward? Some of the ladies on this podcast are way far down the road. They're grandmas. Some are just still getting things rolling, and they're shaking their heads in disbelief and denial. Some haven't even prepared for what's coming. They're not even looking ahead to think one day these babies will leave me. At some point, I wish when I was a 30-year-old mom, I would have had that in the back of my mind, but you all can relate that you're just barely getting through every day trying to figure out how to keep these humans alive. I mean, seriously, that's a whole podcast in itself, just trying to manage the baby, toddler, preteen years. So, you're not thinking, 20 years down the road when they're going to leave and go off to college, and what am I going to do? So what's very exciting about this whole journey is that we get to do it together. So if this sounds like something that you would like to be a part of, I would love you to join me and spread the word. So let's begin. So this first episode, I'm going to take a few minutes to let you know who I am. We will have some wonderful guests on here that I'm so proud to call sisters and friends. But right now, I'd like to take just the next few moments to tell you my story. I've never been one to want to talk about my life or talk about my issues or anything like that. But I feel like at the season I'm in now, when you share your vulnerability and where you're at, it helps so many other people. I know it's helped me. So I am a 58-year-old woman. I know I sound super young, don't I? I've been married for 36 years with 3 adult kids and 1 awesome son-in-law. I currently work as an admin assistant for my church, and I love every minute of it. It's the hardest, most wonderful, joy-filled job I've ever had. I'm so thankful for the group of people that I get to call my coworkers and friends and family. I am excited that retirement is on the horizon. We can cue the balloons and all the applause because that is a reality. I even have a retirement countdown thing on my phone. For years, though, I was a stay-at-home mom and enjoyed the homeschooling life, couponing, soccer mom, karate classes, the minivan life, all the things that moms would do. I entered into the workforce when I was about 40. And while you think that would be helpful to soften the blow and the void left when my kids had the nerve, I'm telling you, the nerve to fly out of my nest, I mean, seriously, it did not. Soon I was finding my identity in my job, being that doer, that Martha instead of Mary, totally losing who I was somewhere, feeling like the more I did, the more I would be accepted. The more I did, the more I would figure out who I was, what was my purpose. And I don't want to overuse that word purpose, but it's true. It's why am I here? So all I can say is, though self-inflicted, I'm sure it set me up for a hard crash. I felt like I had an identity crisis. Just didn't really know where I fit in. I would, that curse of comparison, I would constantly try to be like this person or that person. I lost myself somewhere in the middle at about 40 and hit a wall pretty hard. And then it got even worse when I struggled deeply after my youngest child went off to college. I mean, I was no way prepared mentally, physically, or emotionally for what this next season would bring. I remember vividly not only the day we took her to college, walking away from her dorm. While she was filled with joy and glee, her dad and I literally walked away as if our life had changed forever. And I may get choked up even saying this. We came home and for a few weeks sat in a quiet house on the verge of tears as our last child left the nest. I went into somewhat of a depression for several months. There's no switch to throw to turn off ever being a parent. I wish there was, because maybe that would have helped me manage through this, but there's not. Once you're a mom till you go to heaven. I just don't know how to change that, and I don't want to change that. While I continued to carry on life as usual, something kept nagging on me. What is my purpose now? Up to that point, what seemed to be my sole purpose was to mother my children. And in my mind, they no longer needed me. While I know that isn't true, it seemed to be real to me at the time. Up to that point, I never really have see this season modeled in a way that spoke to me. Shelly, you better get ready. Yeah, I would see other moms do it, but I never saw the behind-the-scenes struggle that they dealt with. There was a season back when my kids were little. I homeschooled. I did all the things I thought I should do. I watched the other moms seem to have it all together. Never saw any cracks. And I thought, man, I would question, am I doing this right? I don't feel the way I see them look. And so, there was always that nagging. I wish I had someone I did have friends in my life. I had mentors in my life that I'm forever grateful for. I would even try to read books on the empty nester life, but nothing really struck a chord with me. And during this time, probably 3 or 4 years later, as I'm still struggling to figure out where I fit in and what is my future, even if my husband, what do we do now? We're at that season, we're over 50. He was pushing 60, and we just didn't know what he didn't struggle with it as much as I did. Identity is such a huge thing for a lot of people, but for me especially. During this time, our women's ministry, which was just starting to take on a new identity itself with some of the next generation coming aboard and taking it into a whole new way that just really opened it up. And they created what's called Sister Cruise, which I am so grateful for. It's a bunch of women, 10 to 12, 15 in each group, doing life together, whatever reason, whatever season, whatever genre or whatever you want to do together. It was wonderful. Well, one of the leaders She knows who she is. I will not say her name, but she is a wonderful, amazing young woman that I have the joy of doing life with. And she would hound me. I'm not even joking you. Hound me. Shelly, you need to do a crew. You need to lead a crew. You have so much to offer. I didn't want to hear it. I appreciated her being kind, but I was still struggling with figuring out who I was and what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And did I have a life? Did I have anything to offer? Well, finally, about 2 years later, I finally said yes. I felt the Holy Spirit say yes. Well, then I questioned every part of my yes. I'm like, why did I say yes? How can I back out? But I knew in my heart that God wanted me to do this. So after that, I argued a little bit more and finally got with her and said, this is what I'm going to do. I want to start a group of ladies in my season of life, 45, 50 plus, with kids that have grown, left the house, or even if they're still in the house, they're mostly adults and they aren't as dependent on us. So I knew immediately I wanted to be that empty nest crew of sorts. Well, so fast forward to maybe a couple months later, I'm sitting just chatting with my son, and I mentioned to him all the thoughts I had about it. And he's like, well, tell me what you want it to be. And I said, well, I really want it to reflect this. And he's really good at just hearing things and then creating something out of just what he heard. And so he said, well, Mom, since you're really looking for what your next is, instead of calling it Empty Nesters, why don't you call it Empty Nexters? And I'm like, wow, isn't that amazing? So not only did he affect me doing this, I also heard at one of the sisterhood nights, one of the young moms said that she had launched a YouTube channel where she was out just sharing her heart about some struggles she was going with infertility. And she was able to reach so many women, and how she was able to share her testimony of how God helped her walk through that season. And I immediately was like, wow, God, if you can use her like that, and in whatever way she's being used, why can't I be used? So I woke up one morning and I felt the Holy Spirit say, do a podcast. And I was like, there's no way. I don't know anything about it. I don't have that gifting. I don't, all the reasons why I can't. Well, I mentioned it to my husband and he was like, let's do it. So with that being said, we created the Empty Nexter podcast as a result of my sister crew that I named Empty Nexters. We have met for 2 years. They are the most amazing, beautiful women of God. They challenge me. We challenge each other. We hold each other accountable. We're there through the good and the bad. We are a support system. But what I've found is that people are real and vulnerable, and they share real life stories of their struggles and their frustrations and how they made it through difficult times. I remember the first 2 meetings sitting on the floor with this look of awe and wonder, listening to women older than me, kids out of the house, grandmas that made it through, and they are so full of joy and faith. And so that sparked a chord in my heart, and it like motivated me to want to do this with the community that I'm in, which is why I'm here. The reason I'm doing this is because I believe there's women I don't know where you are right now, whether you're in Georgia where I'm at, or you're across the world, that you feel lost, that you feel you don't have a purpose, that you don't know what your next looks like. Can I tell you, God knows what your next looks like, and all you have to do is surrender to Him. As a result of watching these women come into my home month after month, I've seen women go on vacations alone when they never thought they could do it because they were fearful. I've seen women do things like swinging bridges because they were terrified, but they wanted to face their fears. There's things, I've seen women speak at conferences when they never thought they could share publicly. Different things that women don't think they can do, but they've got a crew of people and a group of sisters that are saying, come on, we've got you. You can do this. That's what I want this community to be. We've got you. You can do this. And what's even better is Jesus has you, and you can do it through Him. I don't know what your situation is, but I want this podcast to always leave you, the listener, with joy and hope to know that our Father has us in our next, whatever season. So with that being said, I hope that you all will hear what my heart has said, that you will grab a hold of it, and that you will get excited, and that as we navigate our life together, we will figure out what our next is. So if you're in the season of being an empty nester and you want to be an empty nester, come along with us. We would love to have you. With that being said, I'm Shelley. Now go out and let's find your next.